So, Ellie, what kind of tone of voice do you use when you're starting a conversation with a landlord?
You have to come at them like you're a business partner, like you're confident in the agency and you understand what you need to, like what our goal is, what we need from them, and what we're going to offer them. So you don't beg them for anything. You explain how you're going to be helpful for them and how we can then have a partnership to have their end goal of no vacancies and our end goal of ending homelessness and how we can work together.
Okay, so they've got a vested interest in, I need somebody in my unit,
Mm-hmm.
and I need the rent paid.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a vested interest in ending homelessness, and you just show them that you make good partners.
Yes.
So, does that sound like the way you would have a conversation with a client?
In a way, yes, but it's more how you would have a conversation with a coworker, or like a conversation you would have like another agency that you're working with. Because you have to, they have something that you need, and we have something that they need. So if we can just come to them and show them how working with us is beneficial, and you're confident in the agency and you talk to them about, the whole entire process and how they need to be a part of that. And then they get excited because they're never going to have vacancies and they're always going to have their rent paid on time. And they'll basically have someone be their property manager for them.
Good, okay. So, what other benefits do we offer them? They've got a property manager, they've got rent paid on time, they have non-vacant units.
Mm-hmm. We're in the units weekly, so we can make sure that it's being kept up. That if there are any issues going on within like the clients that are in there, so we handle all of that, and they don't have to be a part of any of that. So they get to get their rent money every month, and then we handle any of the issues that are going on there.
How do you handle the, I don't like drug addicts. I don't want them in my apartment. How do you handle that?
You probably already have some in there that you don't already know about. And the benefit with working with us is that we know if the tenant is using drugs, and we work with them to get them off of drugs and teach them why drugs are bad and why you can't necessarily afford rent and paying for drugs at the same time. So you already have them in there.
Yeah.
That they probably just don't know about because those tenants aren't working with us.
I noticed you call them tenants.
Yes.
Why do you do that?
It's a new change for me. Because clients makes it so that if you say clients instead of tenants, the landlords then have the association that these people are different than regular people or regular tenants. So if we can say tenants instead of clients, and don't call us like case managers, just say like supportive staff.
Okay.
Or something like that, or something else that makes it not so negative sounding. Because there's that, our clients are less than, but if we say tenants, they're equal.
Okay. Now, you've gotten the landlord to agree to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
They recognize the benefits of the program, whichever program you're offering them, whether it's permanent support housing or rapid rehousing. And they sat down with you, and you're going to do all the paperwork to figure out what you can pay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage that conversation?
I have that conversation in the beginning.
Okay.
So when I am reaching out to them, if it's a new landlord, I tell them from the beginning, what I need the unit to be like as far as the HQS inspection. I talk about the HQS and I say it's a basic safety and sanitation inspection every single time. Because when they hear inspection, they kind of freak out and think that they're going to have to fix a lot, or that we're expecting this apartment to be grand and awesome and, perfect.
Basic safety and sanitation.
Yeah, and then I say the things that typically cause an inspection to fail are things like not having a vent in the bathroom, not having a fire escape, as far as like the windows staying up, not having a railing that if it has more than 3 steps. And then I say, every single time, I say, it's all cheap stuff that if it doesn't have it in the unit, it won't take you much to get it in there. So I set the bar, we're not trying to make sure that this place is awesome, we just need it to be basic and safe and clean.
Yeah, we don't need you to put new carpet in
Yeah.
the unit.
Yeah.
We don't need you to give us new wood floors.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I then talk about what we are able to pay, and I talk about every single time, even if the program can pay utilities, I always say that we can't, or that we have to have all the utilities included because it just makes it easier. And for a while there, we couldn't pay utilities, but I then say that we can pay up to $752 in this county at least. And so if the apartment is listed, I also only call landlords if it's at $650 or below, because then that still leaves us $100 to pay for that gap of utilities. So I say just raise the price of the apartment to $752 or whatever the FMR is, and the utilities will have to be in your name. And then they always get worried about what the utilities go over. So then I have the conversation with them about how we're in there, we're gonna make sure that they're not using the heat too much or using the ACs too much. And we get them on the budget plan. The landlord's always on the budget plan. And we make it so that if there is any type of like overages, they let us know and we figure out a plan for that, whether that's the tenant paying for it, whether that's our agency paying for it.
So will you make the call for the landlord to put them on the budget plan?
I can't.
Okay.
But I've offered to like sit there with them and walk them through it, but I can't make that for them. It has to be them doing that.
Okay.
But.
All right. So now your client is in an apartment, they're all leased up. The landlord agreed to either removing the subletting portion to run a PSH unit out of their apartment, or they agreed to rent directly to the client for rapid rehousing, the tenant.
I know, I'm getting used to it too, yeah.
They get a phone call. Something went wrong in the apartment. What do you do for the landlord?
I apologize for what happened. If they're stressed, if they're pissed off, if they're just venting, you let them. And then you say, here's what I'm gonna do. And you go over to the apartment, you go over to the unit, or you go over to wherever their landlord is. And you talk with the client, or the tenant, sorry. So I'm gonna give an example, because that's just easier. So like if, I'll use the dog situation, because it's just easy. Landlord calls because they're all pissed off that there's a dog in there. So you apologize, say, I understand that this could make it so that you lose your renter's insurance or whatever the issue is. I'm gonna handle it, expect your follow-up from me in the next 45 minutes or so. Would you like me to phone you, or do you want me to text you? Which one's easier? And I'll give you an update on what's going on now. And then you handle it. Like if the landlord is pissed off about something, then you go and you handle that situation. And then every single time you're over at that unit for the next couple of weeks, text them and say, hey, there's no dog. Hey, I just went over there. There's no dog there any longer. Please let me know if there's anything else. And then you thank them via text message or call them after you handle the situation for letting you know that there was an issue over there, because it's important to you that they follow the lease as well, because that's part of our program. So then that reaffirms to them that you guys are on the same page and you're partners in this, and they're happy.
Okay. Okay. The landlord is concerned about what if your client's using drugs?
Mm-hmm.
They say, does X client use heroin? What do you do?
So when I first am getting to know the landlords, I send them blank case management tools. And like our support domains, our risk assessment, and our guest policy, and our mutual expectations, I always send to a new landlord. And I explain to them in the beginning that all of these different areas that are on these forms, I'm going to be working on with the client. But once I start working with the client, I can't talk to you about anything that's on any of these forms. The guest policy a little bit, because that has to do specifically with like who's coming in the unit, but the risk assessment and the support and domains, full spit at anything, I tell the landlord in the beginning that I can't talk to them about anything specific about what's on there, other than like the rent money and things like that. So if they're concerned about it, then I say, hey, I can't talk to you about that, but what I can promise you is that if they're selling out of that unit, if I find out that there's anything going on in that unit that is potentially illegal, then I'm going to take care of it. And then you do take care of it. But send them the case management tools in the beginning so that they know that you're not just going to put them, the client or the tenant, in there and then just leave and say good luck. You know, so send that in the beginning, and then that sets the boundaries too, where you can then refer back to that conversation and say, hey, remember, I can't talk to you about that.
Right.
And you can't ask my tenant that either.
So you're sort of like lifting the veil on the program and saying, here's what we do with people to help them get stable,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can have sort of a vested interest in understanding what we do.
Mhm.
And later when there's a problem, they get it.
Mhm.
That's all up front.
Everything is upfront. I think it's a social worker in me that does that. Initial contracting is like the biggest part of all of our relationships with people. Like that's what we're taught. So if you set the expectations and the boundaries really clearly in the beginning, anytime there's an issue, you can refer back to that. Refer back to that conversation and say, hey, I remember I already told you I can't talk to you about this, but I'm going to take care of it and I'm going to handle it. And now with our ordinance, it makes it a little bit different down here and wherever that isn't in Parkersburg or something like that. They have an ordinance now. Clarksburg, yeah. So that makes it a little bit trickier because they know more of what's going on in that unit. And if you have someone, like I had a client that was nodding out during the lease signing, obviously the landlord's going to know that there is some substance abuse issues going on. But I can still then refer to that initial conversation and say, I can't talk to you about the details, but I can tell you that we're working on it. And I also explained to them the lack of resources in the area because a lot of landlords have this misconception that I can just bring someone to rehab and that they would get treatment really quickly.
Yeah, so it's the person's fault because they didn't go get help.
Yeah, so if you explain to them that we are working within a broken system and that we're trying to do our best to work within the broken system and that we do see results and here's how we see results. And I also remind them that there are plenty of drug addicts that are stably housed and don't cause a lot of issues. And that they probably have some in their units right now and just don't know about it because they don't have the label of being homeless. You know, and I say catchphrases all the time to try and get them on our side. Like once you become an addict or once you become homeless, you lose your label as a person. And that our program is an opportunity for them to become people again. Stuff like that to kind of feed into their altruism. But eventually it gets them on our side.
All right. Let's say things are going really well.
Mm-hmm.
Jimbo's apartment looks good. Jimbo's taking care of his stuff. He's beginning to pay some rent, and he's on time with his rent payment. How do you use that with your landlord? How do you maximize on the benefit from that?
So because we can talk to our landlords about rent payment, then you can always have the conversation and be like, I'm just so excited. You know, like we have some clients that don't do this and I'm really excited that so-and-so is doing this. You know, so, and then thank them for the opportunity to have him here being successful, even if they're not doing anything. You know, make the landlords feel like they're a vital part of this team because they are. I mean, really we need the housing from them, but make them feel very, very, very important. Thank them over and over and over again for giving them the opportunity to live there. Things like that.
Okay. So you go into an apartment, it looks great, everything's in order.
Mm-hmm.
Do you let the landlord know that? Or do you let it sit? Do you interact with him about things that are going well?
If it's going well, so if I go into a client's apartment and it's super clean, send a text to the landlord and say, hey, this one in there looks great. Just want to let you know, have a great day.
Okay.
And then that way, if a maintenance issue does come up, you can then also say, hey, this was like this 2 weeks ago when I came in here. So this isn't something that my tenant has done. This is something that just happened. So can we then get someone over here promptly to fix it and not have it come out of our budget? And the landlords will then just fix it because they know it wasn't our tenant's fault.
Sure. Okay. The time has come for eviction.
Mm-hmm.
The client's on a lease in their own name. They've not adhered to the regulations of the lease. What can you do to make things better for the landlord or for the tenant?
Try everything you can not to go to court. If we can have the tenants not have another eviction and make it harder for them to get housing in the future, awesome. So you can have, if the landlord agrees to break the lease, then you can offer to write something up for the landlord that says that our tenant is leaving voluntarily on this date. The keys will be given either to the landlord or to us or left inside somewhere. And that they understand that they have until such date to get all of their belongings out. After that date, if the belongings are still in there, they're the property of the landlord at that point, and they can do whatever they want with them. If the tenant signs it, then they can just leave and not have to go to court, and it's still legal. If they don't sign it, then the landlord will have to take them to court. But if you have a conversation with the tenant that not only will they have to pay court costs, because we can't pay them, but that they'll have another eviction on their record that won't be removed for 8 years, 7 years.
A long time.
Yeah, over 5. Over 5 years, it's going to be on their record, and it's going to make it harder for them to find a place to live in the future. And then they'll have to owe whatever back rent or whatever damages were done to the unit that we can't pay. Like, this is the smartest move for you to make, is to leave voluntarily and then offer to help that tenant find another place to stay. Just because they're getting evicted from our program doesn't mean that we're done working with them. So come up with a backup plan, because then that also decreases the amount of likelihood that they're going to squat in that unit where the landlord is. And if you can do whatever you can to make it a peaceful exit so they don't damage the unit, that would be great.
You can house another person in the unit, all those things.
Yeah, and I tell the landlord that, again, in the initial conversation with them, that we do have people that are going to fail out of this program the first time, and that we have had to rehouse people, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people to understand how to maintain stability or to maintain housing. And so that then gets them to understand that not every tenant is going to be successful in their in that apartment with that landlord. But if we move them to a different unit, we will put someone else in that unit so that you still won't have any vacancies. And that lets the landlord know that you're on their side too, and that you want tenants in their building that are going to be successful to that building. And that you're not just using the landlord, you're working with the landlord.
So sometimes you have to shuffle and flip-flop people.
Yes.
In order to give each person a new shot at trying this out, and to give each landlord a new shot at a tenant that could work well in their unit.
Yeah.
Okay. How much time does an agreement like that between a landlord and a tenant generally give for the tenant to get their stuff dealt with and get out? Are you trying to bargain for as much time as possible, or are you just trying to avoid the legal eviction?
It depends on the landlord, really, and what the issues are that are causing that client to get evicted. If it's strictly monetary, like if they're behind on their portion of the rent and that's why they're getting evicted, then try and hold out as long as possible. If it's for something where the landlord or the tenant is damaging the unit or selling drugs, then move really quickly. I don't know the legal time limit. I usually give 30 days because that's what evictions are. So I don't know if you can make it shorter than 30 days, but I always try to give 30 days unless it's for selling drugs or something like that, and then I give them like 2 weeks, and they sign the paper saying that that's okay.
Okay. So technically, it's not an enforceable piece of paperwork, but it does give a situation for a tenant to agree to something and have some control over their situation, and for a landlord to agree to something and save some money on the eviction process.
And you're still giving the client choice. You have a choice there. You can either go to court and have the ability to fight for your situation in front of the judge. We're not saying that you can't do that. We're just saying that we can't pay for that. Or you can take this option. Either one you take, I'm going to be there to help you with. But one has an obvious more, or one has more pros than the other one does. But regardless of whatever they pick, we're going to help them through it. And the landlords know that, and the tenant knows that. Yeah. So you're kind of the middleman for both of them.
So is there any sort of final idea or thought that would be beneficial for me as a case manager trying to improve my skills working with landlords?
Be as invested with the landlord, spend as much time working with the landlord as they spend snooping in your clients' lives. If you have a landlord that is all up in your client's business all the time and knows everything about what goes on in there, any guest that they have, they can send you a picture of because they're always outside watching the unit, then you need to spend that much time working with the landlord. Because if they're putting more time into watching what's going on in your client's life than you are, there's a problem there. And do a very thorough follow-up with them. But a lot of the work to successful landlord relationships happens in the beginning of it, and when you're building it. If you don't have that solid foundation, then anytime something happens, it's just going to go out the window. But if you give them a very thorough and lengthy explanation of our entire program, everything that our agency can and can't do, what we can and cannot talk to them with, what they can expect from us. In the beginning, it just makes it so much easier. If and when stuff comes up, because it will.
Yeah.
You know, but if you just follow through and just handle it. You know, I tell landlords all the time, I'm going to handle it. And that's all I say in a text message. And they've stopped asking what I'm going to do. Because now I just say, I'll handle it, and they know that I handle it, and then I follow up with them.
Sure. Okay. So, when it gets bad and the landlord's really involved, the natural response would be like, sort of protect the client, hide the problem, and you're saying, no, get involved, get more in touch with the landlord, do the opposite of what feels protective to the client, because otherwise the landlord's just going to evict them.
Don't give the landlord any reason to think that you're hiding something from them, but also don't give the landlord more than you're able to. I never tell the landlord, yeah, so-and-so is using up to 6 times a day right now and she's nodding off inside your apartment all the time. But I can say, yeah, she's going through some stuff and we're working on it. And, you know, don't deny that there's anything going on because they already know. But you not saying anything protects you because you're not violating anything. But it also lets the landlord know that, like, I hear you. We have to meet our clients where they're at all the time. So if a landlord becomes too concerned about someone using drugs, say, I hear you, and we're working on it. And that's it. You know, you don't have to give them a plan. You don't have to tell them why the client is using. You don't have to tell them any of that. But that is another helpful piece, though. If you have a conversation with your landlord and you just get to know them, and you learn about their family, you learn about their kids, you learn about if they grew up in this area, you learn about their biases, and you learn about their specific groups of people that they have negative feelings towards. And then if you can then use those not client-focused interactions with the landlord to educate them on, well, I would be using too if I was outside and it was freezing and I was starving. I would want to be numb. And then you get addicted to it. And then here we are and we're working on it. You know, like use those conversations to try and educate them and not have your client be the center of that conversation. That's like, well, so-and-so is using because of this, and I would be using too if I was her.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a problem over here that is using.
Yeah.
And this is what causes the problem.
Yeah.
And here's what we're trying to do about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The client's over here and it's not the conversation we're
Yeah.
having.
Yeah. But then when they have that client using while they're signing a lease, you know, they can then remember this conversation of, oh yeah, sometimes this is a bad thing. And Ellie handled it while we were there. And I didn't have to say a dang thing to the client. Because Ellie got her out of there and signed what we needed to sign, and Ellie left and locked the door and has the key and we'll give it to her when she's not nodding off. And that's the end of it. And be available to the landlord. If they call you, even if it's like 6 o'clock at night, text them and say, is this an emergency? If not, I will call you first thing in the morning. And then call them first thing in the morning. If it's an emergency, then you should answer. And just edit your time sheet.
Okay, great. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
It's really helpful. It's the sort of thing that leads to chocolates and gifts from landlords and landlords that believe in the program and are confident that it'll work and are willing to try again with different people.
Yeah.
So thanks.